Hey, boo, hey. Welcome, guys, to the Vision Board Party. I am Janine. I am the host of Intentional Queen Journey. I am also a certified life coach on growth mindset and self love. So, listen, we are doing the Vision Board Party today. I'm going to give people time to come in. It is from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. People have said to me, Janine, I would like to know more about what you talk about with your Rad Vision and more about how can we plan for our vision coming up for 2023. So we're in our last quarter. So first, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. I have had surgery, so I am a little bit under the weather today, but I am here. I am authentic, and we just going to show up. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to do the event, but I am here, and that is what we're doing. Okay. And so you will see me moving around and looking at some different things as we start to get ready for everybody as they come in. So one, as you start to come in, because this will be for a replay, make sure that you definitely make sure to drop your word of the year in the chat. So my word of the year last year was evolve. And I feel like you have to have a word of the year. And a word of the year will be something that's like a compass to you that's going to help you. That's a part of your vision board. Okay. And so Intentional Queen Journey is birthed off of empowering all women to make sure that they are on their self-love, self-healing, and growth mindset journey. This here is going to be sponsored by the Patreon. The Patreon is patreon.com. That is where I have birthed a community over there for my women, where we talk about all types of things. We have coaching, we have resources, we have all that. That's the cost of a coffee, which is $5 a month. Okay. We also have the podcast that comes out every other Thursday. So you can catch that if you look there where it has intentionalqueenjourney.com, but we're streaming on any network. We're on YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. So make sure we drop episodes every other Thursday. And then we have the Intentional Queen Refuel, which you guys have here, which has led you into this event where you sign up to the newsletter. It's free. It comes out the last Thursday of every month. And on there, we give tips about the podcast. We have mindset work. We do growth. We do all types of stuff. So the goal of that is to help to refuel you and to make sure that we are doing that to refuel you to get you to the next month, because I think sometimes we get so depleted when we're showing up for others, but not showing up for ourselves. Okay. So as you start to come in, just make sure you drop your word in the chat, which for me, like I said, was evolve. Now, what I do want to get into is just talk about some objectives that I really had for this event. And for me, what I really wanted to do was create accountability partners. What I really feel like is when you're going through something, it's nothing like having people who hold you accountable. I remember speaking at one of my friends' events. One of her listeners reached out to me privately and said, could you be my accountability partner? So me and that individual met with each other once a month, and we went over her goals, her vision board. And so I held her accountable, but she found me. So sometimes it's good to find people who you feel link up or match what you're trying to do. I wanted this to be no fuss, girlfriend time, and create community. So right now, like I said, I'm not really feeling my best, but we're here. So I'm in my leggings. I'm in my Intentional Queen Journey stuff. I'm in my socks. I'm relaxing. I'm sipping my water. So because of my healing, my tribe has came to me and said, Jenny, you need balance and you need healing. So those are actually two of my words that I'm using for my next level. I want to talk to you more about how to help you identify your goals, your vision for next year. And I also want to talk about how you can accomplish these goals. So really for me, this is the podcast live. And so as people start to come in, we'll just go ahead and do that. All right. So now that we kind of talked about that, I want to encourage participation into the chat, and we'll just go ahead and do it. And you can even put this in for the replay, because what this will do is what you're doing right now is you're manifesting what you want for the next year. So as you continue to go, this is you stamping down that this is what you want for yourself. Okay. So also in the chat, you will also see under the description box, people ask me about the goal sheet. And so the goal sheet is here. And so what this is here is Hubukak 2:2 and 2:3. That's in the Bible. So I really feel like that's where that write it out, make it plain energy came from. And up top, you can see here, we got the vision board. What is your word of the year? And then here, these are all different goal areas that you would want to look into, right? So you got your personal lifestyle, you got relationships over here and family. So what are you really looking for as you start to birth your vision? What are you really, really, really looking for? So, like I said, last year for me was evolve and connection. I made a lot of connections. I did a lot of evolving. And I just really think that this is really going to be key for you. So hopefully this is something for you and you just hang in there to the end. Uh, let's see what else. I believe you should invest in your legacy, and I want you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so part of that would be just talking about some things. And then later on, what I think you should do, because like I said, I had to pivot into this event because like I said, I wasn't really sure how it would go if I was going to cancel it. And really what I was trying to create was, where we could do it together. But I think this would be something where you could take your notes and you could do it later. So I think that's where I'm going with the angle now. Okay. So what is giraffe vision? To me, I feel like giraffe vision comes from TD Jakes. And he talks about that in a book where he talks about an instinct. He says, you eat on the level of your vision, but you also realize that you have vision, you have foresight. And so if you have vision and your foresight, you know that you're going to go far. And so, like, for instance, in my nursing career, I wanted to be a nurse at 4. And probably about 14, 15 is when I really started making my vision and writing it out and saying, I'm going to go to this school, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so when you really get to a point that you understand that if you don't write it out and you don't really do it, you don't really know where you're going. And so now with multiple degrees and teaching and all this and all these other receipts there, Intentional Queen Journey was birthed from that place of healing that I needed internally, some self-love work, like just really doing work on me that made me show up better. And so I feel like being authentic and being vulnerable was something that was really key. And people ask me, like, how could you really organize that for yourself? So for me, that's my giraffe vision. That's really what I think about. And I feel like you need to have mantras or things that's leading you so you know what you're doing. First thing I would say that you would want to do is know what you want and know your why. So you'll see me start to put up some different stuffs up here because, like I said, I have some people that's going to watch it on a replay. And so you'll see me start to put banners up just so they can be able to organize as they watch it. So we talked about the giraffe vision. So that came from, like I said, the TD Jakes thing. And then what you next want to talk about is what do you want in your why? Okay. What do you want means, like, what do you want in life? That's where that goal sheet comes into. You really need to start manifesting and getting into a space of, like, what do I want? And why do you want to do it? Your why could be your children. Your why could be you want financial freedom. Your why could be you just want to build a legacy. Your why could be so many things, but you got to get really clear on that, because when you get clear on what your why is, that's going to be like what you hold on to when things get a little bit rough, because you need something to fall upon. Now, what you want, that leads more to like your passion, your purpose, like your gifts. What are things that you feel you're good at? Things you want to do, things that you feel are your purpose. Like, yes, I do nursing, but like me going into this coaching space and this podcasting space, that was something that really evolved more from the original setting. So just kind of think about that. And then I would say I was watching, was it Steve Harvey? Steve Harvey had like a motivational video, right? And I thought this was really good. And he said that write down 300 things. That's what he said, 300 things about what you want. And I was like, man, that's a lot of things. I don't know if I could really do that. But write down 300 things of what you want. Marinate on it every day. I think he said 3 times a day for like a year. And then at the end of the year, you check off which ones went and which ones didn't. And then the ones that didn't happen, you push them over to the next year. But the ones that did happen, like, you'll just be surprised. And that's where that whole write it out, make it plain energy came from. Now, I tried this exercise. I probably got to about 75 to 100, but I could not get to 300. But I will say that first year that I tried that, I did hit pretty much most of my goals on that. So I do believe there is some correlation between that. So that's a way for you to start to birth your vision and write it out. Okay, so you really got to start thinking about that. Then I want you to come up with goal setting and your SMART goals. And so a goal setting to me is figuring out how does that look? How do we get there? Right? So you got your word of the year of some things you want to do, but like, how do we get there? SMART goals stand for specific, measurable. It stands for achievable, realistic, and timely. And so those are things that they tell you to do for each goal. And when I went to a mastermind, because I went to Keon Henderson's mastermind, and that was probably last month, and he had some good speakers, and he also spoke too. But what they were talking about was your short-term goals should be 1 to 3. So it should be 1 month, 3 months, and 6 month goals. So break them down like that. And then he was saying you will have your middle term goals, which would be 1 to 3 years, and then have your long term goals, which is 3 to 5. So sometimes we write goals, but we don't really write the time frame specifically. So you should have short term goals, midterm goals, and long-term goals, but you should do them in a smart fashion. Now, what I would suggest, because sometimes goals can get a little bit overwhelming, is to pick 1 or 2 in each category and then just kind of work on it. Because I do believe if you get so many things and you're so overwhelmed with so much, you'll tend to just get into a paralysis and not do anything. Okay. And so with that, I would say that's what I would do for my SMART goals. Next, what I would say is it's time to create the vision board, right? And so you have some people who like them virtual, and you have some that like them homemade. Now, I did used to do the homemade ones where you cut and you paste and all that, but I really like how Steve Harvey said on his thing, which was do it through Canva. So Canva, Canva.com is free, but you can go on there, you can Google templates for vision boards, and you can just drop pictures into there, or you can create your own, like just have a blank sheet of paper on there and then just cut and put elements with your pictures. So that's why on a lot of stuff you see I have pictures of giraffes, because I know what that means. Eagles, I know what that means for me. Butterflies, I know what that means for me. So I have certain things on there that create those things for me, but I also use the grouping from the vision board goal sheet, which talks about, finances, this and that. And so that way, when you're on there, you can kind of, make it look how you want to. Like, I don't want to be specific on what you should do because it's yours. So you put on there whatever you're manifesting. But I feel like if you don't really write down what you want, you really won't be able to make the vision board when you're planning it. And so for Canva, once you do that, you can save it. Okay. And where I was going with that is on Canva, after you put all the pictures and you make it look all pretty, you could put it on your screensaver. I'm on my computer. So you could put it on a screensaver on your computer. You can put it on a screensaver on your iPad, your phone, and all that, because you need to marinate on it. And so you need to put it in a place that you can see it. So some people make it, then they put it in a box, or they put it over here. And if you're not looking at it, then are you really working on your vision? Okay. So that's really big. And also the word of the year. So I put my word of the year in the middle, and all those goals seem to marinate off of that. And then I got specific and said, I want 4 of these, and I want 5 of those, and I want 10 of those, and I want these many downloads, and I want this in my relationship, and I want this for my family, and I want this for my home. Like, really get specific, because then you'll use it as opportunities come up. You'll really realize what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And if it's in alignment, and if it's not in alignment, then you be like, nah, that's not the opportunity for me. Okay. And now that we kind of talked about that, I just want to give you like some tips that I really think can help you manifest your vision. You know what I mean? So for that, what I was talking about was going to that mastermind, and also after really digging deep on the word vision for like the last 2-3 years, these are some things that I really think are going to help you. And these are probably the things that I really put in the podcast episode, because I think these are really going to help people. And one was discipline and consistency. Sometimes people think motivation is everything, but I don't believe motivation is everything. I think discipline and consistency is. And so when you're disciplined, like for instance, I invest in myself and my business into something every day for 1 hour. It may not be a consistent 1 hour. It might be 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 15, 15, 15, 15. But I invest in myself every day. And that's what I want for you. So once you know that you made your vision board and you made all these things that you really wanted, then you're going to go ahead and then find things to invest in that, whether that be schedule that course, whether that be read that book, whether it be go to that podcast, whether it be go to therapy, whether it be go to that coaching. Like, it'll just help you figure out what you're investing in once a day that's getting you closer to your goals. And that's why your goals need to be SMART goals, where they're measurable with a quantity and a time frame on them, so you can really audit that. Two, preparation. Preparation is key. I feel like thought work is so hard because a lot of times people don't want to take that time to really plan and think ahead, because a lot of it, like I said, people will probably really start working on their vision in January. But most people that I know, you know what I mean? Because I'm getting around people who's doing big things. And so when I'm talking to them, they like, Neen, I started planning in October. I'm like, really? I'm a little late. I'm in November, December doing it. But October is when they was already making moves. And sometimes the people that I'm referring to, they got 5-year and 10-year goals. Like they doing things by decades of what they want to accomplish, because I know what my why is. And so I'm like, yeah, when you want your why in certain ways, then you may have to think longer term on how you're going to do it. So preparation is key, right? And so when I went to this conference, I heard something too. You got to choose your heart. And what that means by choose your heart is, pay me now or pay me later. You have to choose what's hard and if you want to do it or not. Because sometimes people always take the easy road out. But, when you are in entrepreneurship or when you are manifesting some of your vision, whether that be in family, love, life, or whatever, like sometimes it's hard. And so if you're not ready to choose your heart, you're going to struggle. So being prepared. The next thing I would say is making sure, let me put that up, making sure that you're persevering. What it means to persevere is like, it was funny. I'm sorry. I had like a little moment because I thought about my son. Like he's in karate, right? And they be teaching him about perseverance and they use big words in there. And so he's learning big words. And, he was like, what is perseverance? And I mean, it's like to keep going despite the trials and tribulations and the storms that come. Like perseverance could be hard. But this is one thing I'm learning too through perseverance, that it's not everything. Like you do push through, but you do hit the envelope sometimes. And that's why I feel like for me, and balance and healing is now the new level, because when you transform, you come out of perseverance and you don't want to always be in that strive category. You want to be in that thrive category where you can kind of relax a little bit. And sometimes I feel like with perseverance is so much grit, like you just pushing, but then like when you push through, like do you enjoy the moment once you push through? You have to learn how to heal and rest in that. And so I think perseverance is good. And you could be one play away from your next level. So Neo, the VCO, you should follow him on Instagram. He was one of the speakers at my mastermind, and he said you're one play away from your next level, and that's true. So when you really trying to figure out what you're doing, you like one play away, one step away, one thought away, one thing away. So just don't stop. You know what I mean? Take breaks, but don't stop. Also, I would say when you are trying to manifest your vision, you got to break it down into bite sizes. Like I told you before, you can get overwhelmed, and you also can have perfection paralysis because you want it to be perfect, teed up, da 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 I. And therefore, when you do that, you know, um, you might not do anything. You can just get to a point where you are paralyzed. And so I would say to just write it down, but do it in bite size. That's why I said start with one goal on the short term, on the middle term, on the long term, and then just keep adding. But if you have the big construct of the vision board, then you can gravitate from different angles within there and just start working on it so it doesn't feel so overwhelming, right? They say to eat an elephant, it's one bite at a time. And then I would say next for number 5, I would say like reward yourself. Are you rewarding yourself for when you hit those markers, right? I'm always talking about journaling your journey. Are you rewarding yourself when you hit a marker, when you hit that goal, like, bam, I hit that? You should reward yourself. You should celebrate your wins no matter what size. You should celebrate them. You should do that. But you should also audit. And what I mean by audit is check through and see if you're hitting your goals at least monthly. And then they say you should do monthly, quarterly, yearly, depending on how the goals is set out. But I would just say I try to look over and see how I'm doing monthly so I can pivot for the next month if it didn't work out. And if it didn't work out that next month, that's cool. You got more time, but it helps you to kind of stay accountable to it. Another thing I would say is get over your fear and be courageous. Like when you get over your fear and you be courageous, like you be doing things you didn't even realize you could do, because sometimes people's past perceptions or their opinions and all that type of stuff can hold you back. And even your thought work on it, like even how you feeling about it can make you step back and not even do something that you're supposed to do because you thinking about what they gonna say or what they're gonna do, and then you stunt your own growth. So don't be stuck in fear and you faith it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to step out on faith. And, I'm in that one of those chapters right now. And, when you holding on to your faith, like really, like you holding on, you holding on. Another thing when I was at this mastermind, I thought this was good, and I brought it up on my last podcast episode, was soak it in and get in a room. So they talked about frogs at this thing. I did not know this, but frogs do not drink water. They're in the water, but what they do is they eat bugs with their tongue and all that type of stuff. But they sit in the water and their skin soaks it in. And so when their skin soaks it in, that is how they are nourished. So sometimes you got to get in a room when you birth in a vision and you see goals that you want to do, and you know people who doing what you want to do, you need to go be in them rooms. You could just sit in there, soak it in. You may not have nothing to contribute. This is what I'm talking about, faith it through fear, because sometimes we feel inferior. We have imposter syndrome and feel like we don't belong once we get into settings. And so when you get into certain settings, it's not for you to shrink, it's for you to be there. And if you're not really ready to be your full explicit self because you're learning, just get in there and soak it in. I thought that was so good that I took that as a mantra for myself, to just soak it in and get in the room. So that's for somebody to make sure you're soaking it in. And number 8, I would say, is like, your network is as good as your net worth is as good as your network. And what I mean by that is, it goes back to soaking in the room. You got to get around people doing things that you want to do, or people who are inspiring you to do better. Because if you stay in an environment that is stagnant, you become more like that. And it's nothing wrong with being stagnant, but if you're someone who's looking at these goals, that's not being stagnant, right? So if you want to continue to grow and succeed in life, you have to create those avenues for yourself. And part of that goes back to the previous things that I said about getting over your fear, being courageous, soaking up the room, just starting, persevering, preparing. Also, I would say marinate on your vision board every day. That's what Steve Harvey said. Marinate on the things that you want every day. Look at your board. My thing is just putting my board in a visible area for me, and that's where I go back and audit. And so I kind of look like I'm at the end of the year, and I pretty much did about 80% of my vision board this year, going into 2023. And I'm just like, man, I did not believe. And it was like 10 times more, maybe 50 times more that I requested of myself from when I wrote down my 2021. So for instance, if I said, I want 500 downloads, I was like, man, I want 5,000. We're over 5,000. That was in a year. Like, things along that nature. Those are just milestones for me, but you have your own milestones. So don't get into a phase of where you making baby things. Like, I'm just going to do one more this, one more that. Like, think outside the box. Be like, man, I'm going to hit for 10. I'm going to hit for 20. I'm going for the gusto. But don't beat yourself up if you don't make it. You just keep pivoting and coming up with more specific actions that's going to help you to reach it. Because like I said, when I jumped that thing up from 500 to 5,000, I was like, man, listen, I don't know, but I did some really small steps in between to try to help. And I was auditing myself every month to see what's working, what's not working, pivoting, reaching out, networking, connecting, getting in rooms. Another thing is, you don't have a business if you don't talk about your business. So if you got a business, like, you got to talk about your business and becoming more comfortable talking about your business. I have clients who are introverts. And so a lot of times, as a fellow introvert, there's certain spaces you don't like to go into because you are an introvert. And with that being said, I would say to you, get around extroverted people, or at least have one or two in your circle, because they'll help pivot you in spaces that pulls you out of your comfort, and I think that's going to be really key. Now, one thing about your vision, and this is something I learned along the way, is you can't share your vision with everybody. It's haters out there. There's also people who try to what's the word? I'm trying to be intentional. They try to sabotage. We call them sabotagers. Sabotage your dreams. And sometimes it's intentionally and sometimes it's unintentionally. But what they do is they sabotage you because they crap on your parade, or they don't see what you see, and then you don't even do what you're supposed to do because you're taking their viewpoint of what they said and you let it run amok in your mind, and now you got mind drama about it, and now you don't even fulfill what you're supposed to do. So that goes back to, I serve women, but there's men that watch my stuff too. And it's like, when you're pregnant, like I remember when I was pregnant with my son, like the first 1 to 2 months, I didn't even tell people I was pregnant, because sometimes, when you first have a seed, you gotta really like nurture it a little bit, tend to it until you can see it coming to fruition, until you see it getting some speed or some get up or some, stamina. You want to sometimes sit on your goals and sit on your vision, because you remember your vision is for you. You know what I mean? And when God put it into you, he like put it into you. And so when you don't share with everybody, you have to understand that's where the whole giraffe vision 2 comes in, because, TD Jakes talks about a giraffe and a turtle. And turtles have different perspective than giraffes. And so with that being said, when you have different perspectives, you get to a point that, you might be talking your perspective to someone who doesn't understand it. And so you could get your feelings hurt, or just sabotage yourself by exposing things to people who don't respect or, appreciate your perspective. And so get to a point that you get around people who appreciate your perspective, who appreciate you, who appreciate your authenticity, and just showing up for yourself, because sometimes it's just starting. I think people really don't understand about just starting. It may not look the way you want it to look, but you just start. I remember when I was just speaking into the mic, I just really didn't know if people was going to listen, but I manifest that people will listen, they will come. And you just keep showing up. And I was consistent. I showed up every 2 weeks, and I just kept showing up. And then they showed up. And, you get to a point that that's the same thing. Same thing with lives for me. It was like, I'm not doing lives. I'm not really doing events, but you show up for you, and you believe that it only takes one person. I don't know why I'm on this tangent, but I believe it's for somebody. And it's like, you show up for the one. When you showing up and serving, you do what God asked you to do, you'll realize that it's bigger than you. It's bigger than what you want to do. And when you can do that, it's just a different way to be. It's also like what they say with Noah's Ark. You build the ark. He built the ark like one layer, one brick at a time. And when you're trying to build, you have to remember that, and really when they say it only takes one or two, really. And I can really say that. I didn't have a lot of people at the beginning, but the people who I've networked with and who have exposed me along the way have been the people who have helped me to grow. And so embrace growth. But remember, when you're stretching, it doesn't feel good. When you have a rubber band and it lays there, it looks like nothing, but a rubber band is really only useful when it's in a stretching situation. So that's for somebody too. You got to be able to stretch yourself. And, when you look at palm trees, right? Palm trees don't break, but they bend. And sometimes you be contorted in a yoga move, and you be like, man, I am out here in this space, but I can't do it. So, I mean, for me, like I said, we didn't have many people come into the chat, and I'm totally cool with that. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, I'm not really feeling my best, especially with my arm. It's actually aching pretty bad right now. But I wanted to do a wrap up, and I wanted to shout out the people that's going to watch this on a replay. You can go ahead and start working on your stuff, like meaning like start doing it. I would love to see a picture of it, or DM me and say, I didn't need something for accountability. You can type your words in the chat later. I can go back and look. As I always say with my events, they always go further than they did that day. Like I said, the Hot Healing Girl Summer, man, we did that in October of we did that in October of 2021. And we've had over 100 views there. I did the Hot Girl Healing Summer. That was done this summer, and we've over 100 on that. So like I said, you never can be stuck on what you see right now. You have to walk by faith. And when you say it into the universe, no matter who you are, because some people are not very like into God, but I just truly am a believer that personally, you have to manifest what you want. And like I said, I've learned that I show up at that time, and it may not be today and it may not be tomorrow. It's later. And so that's for somebody too. Don't get discouraged when it looks like it's not right. It could be something that you're brewing for later. And so just continue to show up, continue to do what's invested upon you, continue to be who you need to be, because when you start to do that, it just ends up being a whole different way. Okay. I also believe you should have a parachute plan. I coach on that too. And what a parachute plan is pretty much when things look a little dim and you need to kind of rework things when you're in that pivoting space. Having a parachute plan, because when you have a parachute, that's when you're jumping out the window. You're like, ah, figuring out what that plan is, because that is what you'll lean into, which goes back into your why. So let's recap on some things. Knowing your why, knowing what you want, knowing how to list out what you want. Are you doing short term, middle term, long-term goals? Are you making them smart? What is a smart goal, right? It's talking about specific, measurable, achievable, reliable, and time specific, right? Making sure that you're investing in yourself at least 1 hour a day, something. Okay, something. Okay, something. I'm saying it like that because if you're really serious, that's how you have to do it. Because people ask me, like I said, with my career, multiple degrees, and even in my coaching practice and intentional queen journey, like that's the discipline. And you have to get to a point that if that's something that you want, you have to step out and become comfortable with being uncomfortable, but also investing in yourself, investing in your legacy. Like I would have never got that article if it wasn't for somebody understanding my discipline. So keep going, keep showing up, keep showing up. Who that's for? Keep showing up, because sometimes, and this is for somebody too, like it takes, I want to say 3 to 5 times for somebody to kind of like see you, to really like recognize with your brand, to recognize you, right? And so I think people get discouraged too quick and then they quit. And so you can't be a quick quitter. You just have to be a pivoter of, okay, well, maybe that's not it. And don't look at, I thought this was good. I follow a social media guy. I think his name is Madry, Madr Woodward or something. And he was like, you got to look at, data points. So when you don't hit your goal, you look at it as data, not a failure, right? So you're like, well, that's a data point. That's not what we're doing. We're going to try this. And so get to a point, instead of making it I win or I fail, make it I win, or this was just some data and we're going to have to tweak it. I think that's going to help you as you continue to keep going, because you need to make sure you're making data points. And I mean, whew, that's just a lot right there. I am just grateful for everybody. I'm going to do my closing, and my closing is, the podcast comes out the last Thursday of the podcast comes out every other Thursday, right? And then the newsletter comes out the last Thursday of every month. And then we have the Patreon community. Like I said, it's the cost of a coffee. Come through. We got some new things that I'm manifesting over there that right now they're in their pregnancy stage. So I'm trying to do some things, but I'm really, really excited about that. I always say level up your intentional queen to a better you. Remember, your IQ is your vision. That's why this is a vision board party. What I really wanted to do for a party is, like, when I really looked, I was like, man, it would be cool if we had like a space and we could like do our stuff together. But most of my friends and most of my listeners, like, they're all dispersed all over the world. So to me, it's like just having this ability to talk to you, to shout you out on the podcast, and just tell you I want you to continue to level up, because when you become better, it's nothing like being better and not being bitter. I'm just telling you, it's just nothing like it. Like I said, I'm Janine. I'm a mindset coach. I'm your resilience bestie. You see the butterfly. The 8 in the middle stands for journey. That means we're birthing something. We're on a journey. And send me a pic or DM me your vision board, or let me know what your word of the year is. I appreciate you. Listen, I know I cut out early, and that's cool. I'm perfectly fine with that. We are pivoting. I'm all about that. And mama's going to go rest her arm because she is in pain. And because this is the podcast, you're actually going to get to hear me close it out. And I'll see you guys on the podcast in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.